Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Very good evening. This is Syed Mazhar, Chair for the IOSH UAE Committee. On behalf of my committee, I really welcome you here. Ramadan Kareem to everyone, and we are having a great audience right now. The session, we had a registration about 450 for this session. We are expecting approximately 250 or more than that even. Before we start, the general rules, please make sure that your mic is completely muted. It's up to you to on your camera or keep off your camera, but to avoid any disturbance, please keep muted your mic. Apart from this, the session will be recorded. So it's for your information and for your acknowledgement that the session will be recorded for purpose to make it available for those who haven't attended this session in future. Today's session for the question and answer, as usual, the communication coordinator, Mr. Asif, will be recording all the questions which will be asked at the end of the session. So no one is allowed to ask question directly. We request you to please write down in the question and answer or to the chat box, and Asif will be taking this to the presenter. Today's session is sustainability of reuse, health and safety implications. One of the very, very important session. And I think in the past 1 year, we never had the opportunity to present such type of things on environment. We only focus on health and safety and other stuffs, but never had a chance. The science of sustainability has various aspects, include the reuse of natural resources to avoid risk of enormous decline in natural assets, which impact adversely on human life. A smart planning and management can only play a positive role to the subjects. Today, we got Dr. Farheen Khanam. She is having approximately 11 years of experience. We had a session together about 4 years back, and she is really interesting speaker. She's currently working as Director Environment with Maruna in Abu Dhabi and UAE and Lebanon. So before we start, again, I would like to request you to please keep your mic muted in order to entertain and get advantage from this great event. So I would like to invite Dr. Farheen Khanam to present the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please let me know that you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Farheen, clear. Your voice and screen is completely clear. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm thankful to IOSH and especially the UAE chair for inviting me to present it today. So today's topic is sustainability of reuse, health and safety implications. We have been hearing so much about sustainability since so far and in the world, and as the climate changes keep noticing by the world, but it is not as implemented as we need, especially on the ground with the people and on the environment which we are living in. So I myself is Farheen Khanam, and already Mr. Syed has given my intro, so I will not go too much into it. Let's move to one of the important slides, which I think everyone has to see and understand. That is the most important thing, that everyone has to understand, that since so far we have been listening sustainability word, but the inner core of the word, we are not understanding it properly. So I hope that you will like this video. So let me share it with you guys, please. Okay. So with this slide, I would like to move on to the next one. As we know that sustainability is to sustain the future, to actually maintain the current situation for the future generations. Future generations, which is really directly connected with our people, and especially with the health and safety. As if you go into the detail of the sustainability, there are 6 major R's which has to be followed and which has to be understood properly. Like, for example, in 6 Rs, we have firstly the one that is reuse. And reuse is a phenomenon which is really important in the common life. Like, for example, each and every person at a small scale, if everyone would implement it at their own space, that would really make a big change and big impact on the world today. So stay away from the single-use items and repurpose items and unconventional ways. So what are those ways? And not only at the design, at the construction, or if you would say at the operational phases of the big projects or the design, huge infrastructure projects, but you could implement this reuse policy. The reuse are for inside your home, inside your community, and on yourself as well, during the work, during your own general life. That is a really important word, which I would be using further in my other slides as well. So let's move to the other one, that is reduce. So what is reduce? Reduce is to decrease your waste production by decreasing unnecessary consumerism. That is really important, because that is the root cause where we start to maintain, to actually we need to take an action on. That is a root cause to reduce, for example, the food waste, for if you would go towards other kind of plastic waste and paper waste. So how we could actually go towards the other options before reducing it. And it would not make a big impact unless we reduce it in our own space. So once we will reduce the things, then later on the impacts would be really great, and it would move on like that. So further, we'll move to the repair. Instead of buying new things, what is the phenomenon of the repair? Repair is also a kind of the reuse word, but in a different way. For example, instead of buying new items, when something breaks down, try to fix it, try to use it, reuse it by repairing it. So it is interconnected with the reuse, and further we'll go to the refuse. So say no to unnecessary items. So if you would go in the supermarkets, we're likely to purchase almost most of the things which we don't require even. So this is actually a big drawback, that when we will go to the malls, we see and we want to just take it, those things, either we like it, either we want to use it, or we have the necessary of that item. And usually, if you would say the costumes, those are really a big threat nowadays, because it is affecting towards the carbon footprinting, and the recycling of those consumer items are really not so easy, and it takes a long time to get them diffused. So that's how usually ending up into the landfills, and we are keep filling our landfills, and we would not have much land later on if we would be using the same thing. So it's better to refuse those items which we don't want in our life, which we actually don't need. So later to that one, we would have the recycle. So the recycle resort, when there is nothing else to be done with an item, then we need to promote the recycle once we would have the waste mostly. But I suggest that the recycle has to be the end stage. And actually, I imagine that it has to be the end stage of the thing which the step which we have to go for. But the reduce is the first one, and the second one, reuse, which we have to follow them. But I would be using this recycle word later on as well. So we need to understand these 6 R's specifically. So later on, the reimagine. What is reimagine? Reimagine is the word which is more likely to, if you have been hearing about the biomimicries. So these are the reimaginaries of the things which we usually see in our nature, and which we have been looking around, and we are trying to remake them, but with an innovative and a better idea that could support actually the sustainability. Furthermore, these 6 R's are the most important thing in the sustainability of reuse and which are directly impact to our lives, human lives specifically. So I would be focusing on the refuse, recycle, and reimagine. So my question, and which I usually think of, that how the health and safety fits with sustainability. Like, we have been hearing up so much about the environment so far, and like everyone is working towards that. But is health and safety really fits with the sustainability? Yeah, I guess that this question is really important to understand that how they are correlated with each other. So sustainability and safety are really about the same thing? Yeah, I guess, yes, that is because they both conserving resources. So when we'll go towards the conserving resources, what is actually to conserve a resource in terms of safety and health and sustainability? So there are 2 options, like for example, how we could move forward with these resources, and that is more important is human. Human is the main resource of the safety and health perspective, to save the human lives and to actually preclude them from the hazards and mitigate them from the potential risks. So further, the environment and sustainability is more focused on environment, but we cannot deny the fact that it also actually promotes 3 P's, that is people, planet, and profit. And without these 3 things, and also I must say that people are connected with the cultural and social phenomena, and the planet is for the environment, and which includes each and everything in the environment, which is on the ground and in the atmosphere. So profit is the one which is really important nowadays due to the economic and the investments. If you have been heard of the carbon investments, that is really important nowadays, which impact actually the people and planet both together. So where we will lead to? Of course, a sustainable life, a sustainable future. So that includes economic, social, and environment all together, which definitely gives us the healthy and safe life. So most importantly, there are sustainable development goals, which has been presented by the UN, United Nations, in 2021, and previously, before that, there were some goals as well. So these are the renewed ones, and which are really important factors, that there are 17 goals. And are we actually moving, and we are seeing that how we are working in certain goals, but we are not accepting the fact that we are not implementing, or we are not providing the best use of, we are actually not doing the best use of these goals. If we will implement all of those together, or at least the maximum or the minimum one which is in our hand, that would really actually support us in our lives. So first of all, there are 3 which I would be focusing on today. That is good health and well-being. The next one is the clean water and sanitation, which is a major part related to the health and safety. And of course, life on land. Without that, we would not be able to discuss that one. So as I would be moving towards the SDG 6, that is clean water and sanitation at construction sites. Well, actually this webinar is mostly related to the IOSH, so I preferred to actually highlight the construction sites, as I have been using and seeing that inspections, during the inspections, that how we are unfolding, and there are some mismanagements and really poor practices during on the construction sites, which is really really have adverse health impacts. So sanitation is a big issue nowadays and all over the world, and we have been facing a lot of lots of problem, not only the environmental but the health issues. Like, for example, if we would go towards the clean water first, then water use can contribute to help cities adopt to climate change by providing an additional and sustainable source of fresh water. Then how that would be possible if we are not possibly actually doing the proper sanitation system and managing it properly on the grounds. And it definitely, the water resources are getting contaminated day by day because of the poor sanitation situations in the world, around the world actually. So if I will talk about the construction sites, that it is typical sewage systems as construction sites, as I have been monitoring at various sites, and my this topic might be actually focusing UAE more, that as I am working in the United Arab Emirates. So most of the examples I have been seeing so far is in UAE, Dubai, or Abu Dhabi mainly. So typical sewage systems as construction sites, we all know that these are the septic tanks which are providing for the actually for the workers to facilitate them towards the sewage and the sanitary what is actually happening with that. There are septic tanks workers on transporting sewage to the licensed facilities, and they are mainly prone to the risks which are hazards. And in sewage we have really pathetic, actually I must say that there are the hazards which we need to consider and take it seriously, of course. So if I'll go towards the hazards, there are biological hazards. So I'll not go too much into the details of the medical terms, but I would like to let you know, as since we have been encountering with the COVID-19, that most of the people have been aware of the medical situations, what is happening at the sites or at their homes related to the medical perspective. So biological hazards, we would see that pathogens, disease-caused organisms such as viruses, bacteria, protozoa, or some organisms that are really found in sewage. And we are not taking that seriously. That's actually a pinpoint to the discussion, that things has to be highlighted, and the risk has to be understood properly to avoid that in future. So most of the health effects in occupational exposures to sewage are attributed to the microbial hazards. These hazards, what they do actually, what are they, and what are the outcomes of those hazards if anyone has been encountering or get into the exposure of those. So enteric intestinal microbial pathogens. For example, there is a really common phenomena which is really actually it mostly comes into the summer because of the lack of the water intake, and also the bacterial infections around the people affects the gastroenteritis, which is really important, which is actually a bad disease, if you could say, that affects human health effectively, and that is indigestion as well. So further, if we'll move on to, there are some opportunistic pathogens, and Legionella is a really common phenomena, which is found in the water, mostly fresh water, but it can actually grow up in the sewage as well, and that affects and that leads to the disease. Microbial endotoxins, which can be inhaled during dealing with the septic water. So parasites such as intestinal worms and others. So talking about these things are really easy, but implementing them and understanding them is really important. So that's why I'm discussing it here. So further, to move on to the similar topic, we have the chemical hazards. So sewage can be deficient in oxygen or contain flammable gases such as methane and toxic gases, then any worker can be encountered with during the mobility of sewage tanks or the septic tanks, and even emptying them regularly is a big threat to the human life and to the worker who is working around. And not only that one, but it is a threat to the environment and to the people who are working nearby, due to some factors which is related to particularly with the sewage. So, for example, flammable gases may be released during vehicle transport of human sewage due to agitation, uh, presenting a risk of fire or explosion. And that's a big threat that if we have been actually encountering with several problems of the sewage tanks over here in UAE particularly. If I will talk about the Abu Dhabi, there are the sewage tanks which has been moving on daily basis from huge construction sites from one place to another, and there is a long route, and they are particularly actually emitting a lot of carbon. And once it leads to the final destination, then the treatment has cost a lot, and also that is a big threat to the human life. All the way the sewage tanks would go from the communities and from the roads and the infrastructure. That is a big threat to the human life and the safety of the people as well. So first we'll go and if you'll see, the sewage may also contain harmful substances, that's for sure. So the trade waste or the industrial commercial facilities, such as certain solvents, organic chemicals, and heavy metals. So these all are a big risk to the human lives, which are dealing with the sanitation issues and the sanitary problems, plus the sewage. The common practice of the sewage tanks. Later, when we'll go towards the potential leakage and overflow, that is the one which I have observed myself during the site monitorings and the site visits, that sometimes there are really the overflow is too much, which is because of the miscalculation and mishandling of the sewage tanks and septic tanks that has been handled in various sites. These are actual pictures of one of the sites I have been visiting for the inspection. And why this happened actually? Why this is, if you could see that there is the right of the picture, right side, that the water is turned green because there are biological parasitic effluents, which are actually the biological parameters which are actually making it turning into green, because that is the water is overflowed, and that has been there since for like 1 or 2 days maximum. This is what I'm talking about. Like, even though it is overflowed, it is actually contaminating the ground, the environment, the underground water resources, and it is also giving hazard to the lives over there in terms of the inhaling and other things. For example, if we will see the risk of leakage, overflow, and incident of mishandling could cause a dangerous impact on the environment, as I said, and workers' health conditions could lead to the minor to major health conditions such as infectious diseases, fatality, etc. So this could lead even to the death of a person if that person could get exposure to such kind of situations during the construction works. So, and this is the true example which I have observed. So what are the reductions of what are the parameters which we would have to follow, and which we have to actually give the awareness to the people of those parameters that they could follow and leads towards the safe life. So first of all, that is basic hygiene practices for workers, that, for example, that which would include the washing hands and giving the awareness to them to not to touch their eyes and their sense organs once they are exposed to the sewage. Exactly. So personal protective equipments, of course, these are the major and important phenomena that has to be followed. So all the protective equipments, for example, the gloves, the mask, and the proper costume for the person who is dealing with the sewage waste and sanitaries, and which is also a lacking point here as well. So people has to actually do the protection for themselves. Training for workers, best practice guidance to the workers handling sewage septic tanks are really important, because workers sometimes they are not aware of the risk, what is going to happen with them by actually encountering or exposing towards that of certain thing, especially the sewage water. So best practice guidance is really important to teach them every time and to show them then how to deal with such certain things. And I will also discuss that further as well. So this is the main point, that training and keep them aware of the situation, of the medical situation of the surroundings or the environment as well. So vaccination recommendations for worker, that is really important. For example, the diseases like hepatitis, typhoid, and such kind of diseases are really really prone to this sewage and sanitary problems. So when we'll go towards the maintenance, sensors, and proactive alarms, where we would place those. So actually, the sensors and proactive alarms works really great in to avoid the overflow and the damage of the septic tanks. That by that one, the people could not get exposed to the certain wastewater. So the maintenance is a general phenomenon which has to be followed in any cases of those during the work, actually, for the systems. Scaling up towards the waste and waste water like that. So wastewater reuse at construction site. I know that there are several systems which has been working, but is it particularly imposing on construction sites? That is the main point. So here, water reuse is a growing practice worldwide. So why we don't implement it on our construction site? This is a big question mark to the stakeholders, that it has to be. It has to be. So this has to be emerged and must be suggested to the decision makers. Next recommendation is especially where the scarcity issues like the hot climate zone areas, and where the issues concretely limit the development of economic activities such as agriculture and manufacturing, and the industries where, for example, the chemical industries, where the wastewater is hazardous in a way more at the top rather than the normal sewage, commercial, or the you could say that commercial or the domestic zone. So further, if we'll go to beside long-term improvements of water supply demand balance, we could reuse the water, which could actually allow us to avoid the treated wastewater discharge in water bodies. So that is really important, that we have been seeing that a lot of water discharge has been made, treated water discharge to the water bodies, mainly in the oceans, lakes, or different rivers. So thus providing an alternative to other investment aimed at protecting water quality of sea, river, and lakes. So what we could do actually, furthermore, in that case, 4.2 billion people around the world has really facing the issues with the safe managed sanitation services. It is not only related to the construction site, but it's related to the domestic and the commercial entities as well, where the people are living and they are doing those services by themselves around many areas, for example, the African region, and even in the some areas of the Middle East, or the other zones as well. And if I have I must give the example for some South Asian countries which have been encountering the sanitation issues as well, but those are not safely managed. So 4.2 billion people on earth are facing those issues just because of the sanitation services. So 80% of global wastewater is not adequately treated. So as we know that the wastewater is general phenomenon. Okay, we could reduce the water consumption in a certain way to avoid to waste the water. But is it a human behavior to actually reduce the water consumption? No. Most of the people, for example, if I give the example, nobody wants to flush once. Everyone wants to flush twice just to be sure on that case. So if we will go towards that 80% of global wastewater is not adequately treated because the consumption is, because the consumer is, consumer of the water are actually behaving differently in that case, and there is a lot of wastewater in the which is untreated. So 36% of the global population lives in water scarce areas, and that is really a pathetic situation, a bad situation all over the world. The water demand is expected to rise to 55% by 2050. So just imagine if the water demand is keep increasing and we are keep wasting water and not treating it properly to reuse it. In this rapid urbanization, we would be losing the water source very soon. So this is actually called the relation with the sustainability, and how it is helping the health to improve the health and safety of the people by actually following the best practices. So next, what is the main summary of this one is the need is great for the water retreatment or for the water reuse in any terms. So if I'll go furthermore in the wastewater treatment solutions which the world is providing to the people, and why we don't use those at the construction sites, which it might be applying to some or to the Western regions, but I haven't seen since so far in the GCC and in the Asian countries that there are huge constructions going on and there is no proper retreatment systems, so treatment systems provided. So how it would actually, the sustainable, innovative, decentralized solutions, how it works and how it could actually give the benefit towards the health and safety, that is minimal or zero exposure to the health and safety risk. The first, if I could say that, okay, the person would be exposed to the sewage, but if you would be not transporting that waste to another place and exposing more people to it, there is a minimal chance for the people to get exposed. The the number of people would decrease eventually. And of course, if you would provide the safety, if we could provide the safety solutions and the proper PPEs to the persons, then there would be the zero exposure to the health and risk. So next, towards that one is high productivity of workers. So once the health of the person is really good, and they would definitely work for the long, for the proper mind, and they would be healthy. Their productivity would definitely increase, and it would effectively impact the economy of the country or the world. Furthermore, the environmental friendly nature-based systems, which are actually promoting nowadays, and I also working on a similar thing nowadays for one proper system, which is giving the less front printing, less carbon emissions, and also it is giving the people less exposure to the wastewater, and which eventually providing the people a good health and also the chance to save the cost and on water irrigation, medical, transportation, and replacement of, it is a great replacement of sewage septic tanks, and plus it is providing an alternatives to reuse the water and to reconsume it at the same site. So the water is recirculating. So this one actually providing a proper cycle of the same water. So it could eventually decrease the number of the wastewater, decrease the percentage of the wastewater consumption. And later on, this would eventually help people and this planet and give you a huge profit in not in only in terms of money, but in terms of health and safety as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A very comprehensive presentation. We have a couple of questions from the members.
Thank you.
The first question is, with the sustainability goal presented, what is currently implemented in UAE?
Well, UAE has currently targeting all of those goals particularly, but most of them, if I would say that the climate change is the major one which we are following right now. But if climate change goal, the equality, if you have seen that the equality in terms of the person's environment, health and well-being, the medical sector is improving. Plus, actually, I must say that there is a best medical services and best medical services are providing to the people, the facilities are providing to the people, which is also a SDG goal. And in terms of the sanitation, there are certain steps has been taken. For example, if you have heard of the SIWA and DIWA, which is working particularly in the Emirates of Dubai, Sharjah, and also in Abu Dhabi, there is waste management company called Tadweer. So there are mostly UAE is working towards all of the goals, and actually they have shared the data. The main and the most important thing is the monitoring, which United Arab Emirates is working towards. So they are monitoring, doing the mitigation, actually highlighting the root cause and searching for the better options.
Thank you very much. We have one more question. Is there a record that shows a company received fine because of environmental violations in UAE?
Well, that's really a good question, and related to my particular subject, environment as well. Yes, there is. There are certain fines has been imposed by Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. Being an eco-ambassador of Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, I must say that environmental hazards are really too much on the construction sites. So there are certain fines up to, which leads up to 50,000 dirhams to 100,000 dirhams in UAE for the sanitation, poor management of sanitation and wastewater at the construction site particularly. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We have one more question. How is septic tank or sewage tank system related to sustainability? I can understand the hazard, the health hazard, but not from an environmental point of view. Can you explain, please?
Yes, sure. Once there is a bad sanitation system, there are effluents and there are gases involved in that one. So what actually happening is the GHG emissions are getting higher because of the emissions which we are facing by those gases. And when you are, if you are even going to treat more the sewage, then there is more emission towards the carbon footprint, carbon and all. So another thing is also that how it is impacting the environment. It is actually contaminating your groundwater resources, which is a sustainable resource for your future. Also, it is also impacting on your soil conditions and air quality, because when it evaporates, it also impacts and the biofuel, you could say the biogas or the other kind of gases, which are really hazardous to the human health as well. So sustainability is not only about the environment, it's about the people as well, the sustainable growth of the people as well. Yes.
Thank you, well explained. We have one more question. How septic tank leakage and overflow can be controlled in engineering controls, right?
Yes, that's really important. I have mentioned that earlier as well. The sensors can be placed inside the tanks to avoid the overflow. When it reaches up to the certain level, the people get informed. The alarm systems could help people. And those are really cheap nowadays, because this practice has been really common to the certain places, as I have seen at one of my own construction site, that they have placed the alarm and also the sensor system to avoid the overflow. And if you have seen this picture over here, we have one wastewater treatment system called BiomeWeb, which has also those sensors to avoid the water overflow.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question. Is UAE treat wastewater? I think yes, they do.
Yes, definitely they do. They have
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
systems in all of the Emirates.
yeah.
Diva, if I must say that in Dubai, Diva is working on it. Also, the BIA is working in Sharjah. Abu Dhabi also has one big system for that one, wastewater treatment system in Ruwais, I guess.
Okay, thanks. Uh, is it possible a company can build a basic in-house sewage treatment plant?
Well, that's not so difficult. A company could definitely make it, but there are some engineering and technical points are required. The biological perspectives has to be seen. A company can make it, but depends what is the domain of the company. Do they have the product? Do they have the knowledge of the waste effluents or the biological parameters? Are they known about the parasites which are found in those? So I think if the company is working in those industries, then it would be definitely easier for them to make a product which is innovative and sustainable to use.
Okay, thanks. Can we connect this sustainable topic with environmental, social, and governance?
Yes, definitely. Actually, what is environmental, social, and governance? Those are another terms of the sustainability. Environmental, social, and governance. These three things, as I have said, the three P's of sustainability: people, planet, profit. So it eventually connects with sustainability. Like, for example, when you are working inside your company at corporate levels or like that, you are looking towards the better sustainable ways to adopt in terms of the environment. For example, the less use of the paper by the workers, less consumption of the diesels by the people working in your company, and other safety issues that, for example, health issues must not, the area must, the location of, or you could say, the people who are sitting in the place, the workplace must be good in terms of lighting, in terms of air, ventilation. So these are eventually, actually, sustainability supports those systems directly or indirectly, I would say.
Thank you very much. What we can do to sustain water consumption in facility management, such as schools and universities, apart from water sensors and smart irrigations?
Okay, the basic thing is about the awareness. And if I'm not wrong, your question is about how that could work in the schools and the educational system to reduce.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so first thing is awareness. I must say the awareness has to be given to the, for example, the occupants, for the staff, for the students, and then later on, if you have seen that, if I will go towards the other kind of ways, there are segregation is a main factor which every school, or you could say the educational academics, are adopting those strategies particularly. So they could also enhance that one by stopping or by actually putting hold on certain use of the water. For example, if you will use the less water, eventually there would be the less wastewater. So this is but facility management team, of course, we cannot actually overcome their importance in such topic. Then they have to manage the whole and soul, because students themselves, they cannot do such things on the bigger levels, or the staff, because they are there for the certain time frame. So I think awareness is the best thing to give them to avoid
Right.
wasting
Exactly.
the water.
Yeah. After wastewater treatment, water can be used for drinking. Is UAE practicing the same?
Well, yes, some companies are providing these things in UAE. Even I have attended one seminar given by the Dubai Investment Park, and they have presented us the water, and we didn't know, using the wastewater as a drinking for the drinking purpose is a yuck feeling for the humans. So eventually, if you would tell them, then their mind works differently in that sense. So it's better, like they have put those bottles for everyone, and nobody knows that it is a treated water. So everyone used that, and later on we got to know that okay, that was the treated water, but it was the same. But I must say that that has to be treated properly, and there must be the water quality parameters has to be, but continuously monitored for those kind of plants or these things, because there is a potential that is not go towards the health beneficiary, I must say.
Thank you. We have many questions. Last but not least, what role can we play to achieve sustainability?
Yes, this is really important. But I want to get the little elaboration of this because there is a lot to do in the sustainability, which in which sector or the particular thing the person is talking about. The question, if they could elaborate the question, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate your presentation. It was a very comprehensive presentation. Thank you, Parheen. Catherine, the platform is yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you particularly for that very interesting presentation. It was really good, and you mightn't have seen yet, but there've been lots of positive comments from everybody who's in attendance, and we're very grateful for you for giving up your time to do that. So thank you very much, and thank you to Asif for handling the questions for the branch. And please do keep an eye out. I've put the link into the chat for the slides and the presentation afterwards, because a lot of people have been asking about that. So with that, we're going to end for this evening, beg your pardon. And once again, thank you very much, Fareen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
God bless you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.